Good evening, folks. I wanted to give you an update on the tomato harvest as it's going. This could be one of the better years of tomato growing that I've had. I'm just showing you some of what I picked here tonight. Now, as I've said before in videos, I never wait till they're fully ripe to pick them, because usually by then there are a few bite marks taken out either by mice or chipmunks or whatever, or even worms if they're laying on the ground. So I wait till they start to blush a bit. And as soon as they blush, then I will pull them out. I'll set them on a table that I have under a pavilion where they're not in direct sunlight, and then they can ripen fairly easily over the next several days. But I wanted to show you this one tomato right here. You can see it's about almost 7 inches long. This is probably the biggest tomato that I think I've ever grown. I mean, it's just gigantic. Can see that. I don't know how many pounds that is. I believe that's super steak variety. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was one of the bigger varieties I planted. And you can see there's some others that are similar like that. It's kind of a lobe tomato. It's not a nice round salad type tomato, but that's okay. As I said before, I like the big tomatoes like that, the big juicy ones, because that's how we make our spaghetti sauce. We juice our tomatoes, and there's plenty of pulp in there and plenty of juice in there to make sauce with. So I'm still on the front end of the tomato harvest. I've got a lot that are still green. I am throwing some away every day too that have bad spots on them or that bugs got into, so there is some waste, but by and large it's going pretty well this year. I'm gonna maybe have to water again if we don't get some rain. We missed 2 storms yesterday, or 1 storm yesterday and 1 storm today that both went to our south. That would have probably given us a decent amount of rain. So things are drying out again, but as you can see, these are doing really well. And I will come back with another segment of this tomato harvest to show you a little more how things are going. They're not perfect like you'd see, in advertisements, but hey, these are for canning. They're not, and juicing. They're not for, selling in a supermarket as a salad tomato. So I don't care if they've got blemishes on them, as long as they've got the size and the taste and the juice and the pulp. That's all I'm worried about. So at any rate, I'll come back to you. And the results of the tomato harvest. Actually, this is about 2/3 full. This container, I forget how many gallons this or quarts this pot is, but this is how much juice I got out of that wooden basket full that you saw with tomatoes earlier in this video. So that was juicing about that many. It was a full basket. And so the plan is let this cook down probably a half, maybe a little more, so it's thick enough for sauce. It's been cooking now for about 45 minutes or so. So we'll let it cook down until it's that way, and then my wife will add the spices and we'll be ready for spaghetti sauce. So this is the second small batch that we've done, and with so many more tomatoes to come, we should be in pretty good shape with sauce. We'll also do some tomato juice with this harvest too. So just another update. I'll tell you more when more comes in. Hi folks, wanted to give you an update on the tomato harvest. This is the latest batch that I've brought out of the garden. Actually, I had to bring it into the house, where I had them on my table out in my pavilion. Something was getting into them and eating them. Just, a few bites here and there, a little chunk out here and there, just enough so that the tomatoes weren't good. And they wouldn't just eat one, they'd take bites out of, I think I threw a dozen away today. So I'm guessing it was probably a chipmunk. And I didn't have that problem other years. So what I've done is I've set up a table here in my office. Again, you don't want these in the sun to ripen. You want them out of direct sunlight. Some of these aren't too bad already. I mean, I can probably start juicing some. I have a whole pile in the kitchen ready to go to juice tomorrow. And you can see here the small ones. Again, those are all cherry tomatoes there. There's some cherry mixed in, but it's mostly those little salad tomatoes. Again, I don't remember what they're called, but they're prolific like the cherry tomatoes, and they're growing crazy out there. I still have so many, and I only planted like, was it 2 or 3, maybe 4 bushes of cherry tomatoes, and they're growing through the corn stalks, they're growing through the fence in the garden by the one end, and they're just growing and growing. I've got hundreds and hundreds of blossoms still on there, so at any rate, we're working on it. And my harvest isn't bad. Again, these tomatoes don't look beautiful, but I'm not planting for selling them as slicing tomatoes. These are juicing tomatoes, and so they don't have to look beautiful. I showed you the one big one I had in an earlier part of this video. I picked another huge one today, just to give you an idea. Again, I'm not letting it ripen on the vine for fear that something will get into it. I believe that is a super steak. I can be wrong. The beefsteak variety are a lobed tomato like this one, so you can see the lobes on it. Whereas these tomatoes that are just pretty much more rounded, I think these are big boys if I remember correctly. They're a large rounder tomato. And both are doing very well as as some of these smaller varieties. I never plant all the same kind. I like the variety. And the fact of the matter is my heirloom tomatoes, my ox hearts, haven't even begun to ripen yet. They're a later tomato, but they're doing well. The vines are doing well, and there are a lot of green ones on, so when they ripen I'll have them too to add to my my processing. We've done about 11 quart freezer bags of spaghetti sauce so far by juicing the tomatoes, cooking them down, adding the spices, etc. It's been easier so far this year with our work schedules and stuff just to freeze them rather than do the canning. We may get to doing some canning though yet, and this tomato harvest is, at this point I'm going to say, less than half over, and that was from 36 different tomato plants. Some were the same, but at least half a dozen different varieties. So it was a very good year thus far for tomatoes, and it continues. So I'll give you another update with that, and that'll be another part of this video as I'm breaking it up over a couple weeks here as things progress. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and we'll keep you updated on country living on a shoestring. Another update on the tomato harvest. This last batch of tomatoes that we processed, we got 7 quarts of sauce. I think that puts us up to about 13 in the jars and 10 or 11 in the freezer bags. So we're getting there with it. You can see it did turn out pretty well. Wife was working on it yesterday and finished it up today. She did something a little different with these, just an experiment. Instead of using the regular hot water bath canner that we typically use for the tomatoes, she decided she would try using a pressure canner. It's all pulled apart now, of course, because it was washed up. But the thing with the pressure canner that she wanted to try, with the water bath canner, you have to add lemon juice to the sauce to make sure that all the bacteria is killed, to increase the acid content. But her concern with that is she thought that changed the flavor of the sauce, and not in a way that she would have preferred. But with the pressure canner, the temperatures are hotter, and because it's pressurized steam, it actually killed all the bacteria. It kills all the bacteria without having to add the lemon juice. So she wanted to try that. She said it takes about the same amount of time. I'm not an expert on pressure canners by any means, but she did it this way with this batch, and we'll see how it turns out. So in the canning book it explains how to use pressure canners, so I won't try to tell you how to do that. You can look all that up online if you decide you want to use it. This one will do quarts. They make smaller ones that are for pints, but that one is big enough that it will do quarts. You just put it on the stove top and cook it that way. And we got these 7 quarts of spaghetti sauce as a result. So the tomato harvest continues. I think that'll be the last update on this video. If anything else significant happens, I'll give you another one. I don't want this video to drag on too long. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. Hit the notifications bell as more videos come available, and we'll give you more updates of life living out here in the country on a shoestring. Thanks again.